Hey, how's it going? Welcome to today's interview. Something I'm really excited about, and somebody I'm very interested and excited about speaking to and sharing her fairly incredible story with you today. A story of transformation. Linda Ross, thank you for spending some time with me today. How you doing?
I'm great, thanks. It's a pleasure, George. I'm really excited.
Yeah, and this came about as I was putting together this series of interviews, and you'd posted something or commented on one of my posts. I think it was in the Beginner's Luck Guide for Non-Runners Facebook group, and you'd put something on that. I think, oh my goodness! And it was this whole 6-year journey that you've just been on, but in about 150 words. This comment like, flipping heck, you've just achieved so much. I thought I've got to find out more about this. And of course, I followed a lot of the journey over the year as well. But seeing it all together like that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. I want to find out about the transformation, about what life was like for you 6 years ago or so, what it's like now, the difference you made. But probably more importantly, I want to find out about what changed up here. Like, what are some
Okay.
of the mindset shifts that you have gone through? Because I know you said to me before that you're like a different person now
Yeah.
compared to how you were. So what was it like
Yeah.
6 years ago? What were the catalyst for change?
6 years ago, I was, and not many people know this, it's not something that I put out there a lot. I was a borderline alcoholic.
Hmm.
I lost my house, my marriage, my son, all in the same week, which is, funnily enough, this week on the run up to Christmas.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was drinking 3 bottles of wine a day, smoking 20 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
And I got to the point, and then I met Steve, my husband now, and I got to the point and I thought, I am killing myself. And he was very worried about me. And he said to me, if you do not stop drinking, Linda, how I held a job down, I don't know.
So you were functioning here. You were going to
Yeah,
work, but still getting
yeah,
three bottles of wine
yeah,
and cigarettes and everything else. Wow. Okay.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, I've got to stop. And my sister-in-law and her husband came over one afternoon and said, shall we go for a walk? So we went for a walk, and there was a little 2-mile loop in Flag, which is between Buxton and Bakewell, where we used to live.
Mhm.
We went for that walk, and when I came back, my head actually felt clearer. So I put my shoes on again the next day on my own and went out and did the same again. And I did that for a month. And all that time, I didn't realise that during that period, I was actually drinking less and less and less because I was trying to keep myself
So,
ready
so you
to go
had
for that walk.
you weren't. Oh, so were you consciously deciding in the evening to drink less because you wanted to be fresh to get up and do that walk? So that walk was really became an important part of your day to get out and just have
Yeah,
that headspace. Okay.
yeah, yeah. And that was time for me and time to put my
Yeah.
thoughts um, into a box, really, and put the chapters of my life that had gone terrible and think about those and where I was going to go. And then I got to the point where that walk wasn't fast enough for me, and I was getting some benefits from it. I lost a stone in weight.
Really, just from doing that walk, and I guess
Just from that
dropping
walk.
the alcohol as well, or reducing that
Yeah,
would have made a
yeah,
fair difference as well to that. Wow.
yeah. And I think what people don't realise is alcohol, it's calories, but it's all negative calories. You don't get anything from them.
No, no,
So
no.
I dropped a lot of that. And then I thought, I'll start and run walk. But the only thing I had on my feet was a pair of pit boots. That's what I was walking in.
Okay.
So I started running
Uh-huh.
walking in a pair of pit boots.
So pit boots, what are they like? Like steel toe caps?
Steel toe capped,
Uh-huh.
yeah, laced up to the calf,
Right.
under my
Okay.
jeans. So I started running in them, but I got
Not the
terrible.
ideal running footwear. Let's face it.
No,
But it was
no,
enough to get you started.
it did kickstart me, and I thought I really need to go and get something a bit more comfortable for my feet. So I went and got a pair of trainers,
Hmm.
and then I started walking that loop, and then I started running it all. And then I thought I really need something to some direction because, and by that time I practically stopped drinking as well. I was still smoking quite a lot, so I bought a treadmill, and I was looking for direction. I put the treadmill in the bedroom, and your book came up, and I started with a beginner's luck guide and started from scratch.
And this was about 6 years ago. So this was pretty
Six
much,
years.
I published that book in 2014. So this was
Yes.
right at the beginning. You must have been one of the very first to follow that program. So what serendipitous timing for
Yes.
kind
Yeah.
of our lives to to coincide like that.
Yeah.
So what happened next? So you're already doing a bit of running. You'd already created a habit by the sounds of it, and you're already
Yes.
making some fairly substantial lifestyle changes. But not only
Yeah.
that, you were experiencing the physical and mental benefits of just being physically active.
Yeah.
And so when you got the book, and the book is all about going from scratch, or being very inexperienced or incapable of running, to being able to and confident that you can run for 30 to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
It's meant to be a 10-week-ish program. How long did it take you then to work through and get to that point?
I would say it took me a good 3 months to get to that point, because everybody has days, everybody has relapses.
Yeah, totally.
Where you fall off again and you think, oh, I need to get myself back on it. So it took me about 3 months to get to the point where I could run for an hour comfortably. And then I will always be a plodder. I have never been a fast runner. I'm a plodder through and through. So I started looking at increasing the distance rather than a lot of races and things. But I realised that running for a longer period of time was actually my forte. I'm better at that.
Right. Okay.
So that's what I started doing. But in that time as well, I stopped smoking. So I totally got rid of the cigarettes, and I vaped for about 4 months because they'd just come out then.
Right.
So stopped smoking and realised what a difference that made as well.
Yeah, you're a real trailblazer. New things, you just throw yourself into it. New running program, this vaping thing.
Yeah. If I'm going to do it, I have to do it in style, George.
Yeah,
I really do.
Absolutely.
And by that time, I'd lost another stone. So I'd lost 2 stone by that point. And at school, I was never really sporty. The little fat lass never got picked for the netball team. I was never sporty at school. So to start running at 42, because that's how old I was when I started, was something really different for me. But I realised then as well that running wasn't going to be enough, because your range of movement is so limited when you're running. And a friend said to me, the next door neighbour actually, she said, come and run off-road, come and do some fell running with me. And I said, oh, no, I can't do that. And she said, yes, you can. She said, and once you run on the fells or off-road, you will never go back on the roads again. And I said, oh, I don't think so. And she said, no, it's true. And it was. It was. So, and then I started cross-training, doing a bit of cross-training. So I'd go and see a PT. I mean, didn't do as much then as I do now, but because your range of movement is quite limited when you run, obviously you need to keep your core strong. So I started with that as well. And I think my husband then noticed the changes in me, noticed mentally that I was in a better place, because I was. I couldn't go a day in my life before I started running without crying. And that's what I did all the time. I cried all the time and drunk and smoked. And he noticed a big change in me, Steve. He said, you have changed, Linda, it's changed you. And that was only a few months into that journey, probably 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
So definitely.
We'll pick up from there, because I know that certainly isn't the end of the transformation. We're just scratching the surface here. People listening may have already got a taste for what's to come when we've been talking about going for longer distances, and longer didn't just mean going for a couple of hours. So we'll come back to that point. But I'm really, really interested here in this interplay and this parallel between your physical transformation, the beginnings of, and a very rapid change in your behaviors, the way you thought and your approach to things. And I'm wondering, how much of this do you put down to the kind of the clear head space that you get when you're out there doing something, working things out in your mind, the fresh air? How much of this change do you think was due to that? And how much of it was due to this kind of shifting belief that you had in yourself? You mentioned that, when you were at school, you were the fat lass, no one ever picked the sports. And now all of a sudden you're running for an hour regularly. And you're becoming a different person. Did you find that you were shifting this belief in yourself and your abilities and essentially your sense of identity and who you were.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and people always say, to start something, you have to believe, your mind has to believe that you can do it initially. But I would say at least 90% of the shift and the change, and especially mentally in me, came down to the exercise. It came down to starting running and getting out and in the fresh air. And as we get older, I mean, there's one thing for sure, none of us are getting out of this alive. We are all going to die at some point. And as we get older, you change emotionally and physically and spiritually. I think you change, and you can't stop that, and we can't change that. But what you can change is what you feed your body and your mind. And that's what I noticed more than anything with the exercise. What the thoughts that were going in here combined with the exercise changed me mentally as a person, physically as well. I mean, now
were you aware of that process as it was happening? No. Were you aware? But I mean, I know you mentioned Steve kind of like he reflected that back to you and said, you know, you made some changes. Obviously, you know, the obvious stuff like you're not spending as much time crying, you're obviously not drinking as much and smoking. So you've seen these physical changes and the weight loss, but actually your outlook and your disposition, your attitude to things probably changed as well for him to reflect and notice that. And has that been something that you've become more aware of then as time has passed over the last 5-6 years?
As time has passed, Initially, I wasn't aware of that. It was other people that said to me, you have changed. You are a lot more relaxed. You're a lot more... you seem to have more of a purpose in life again now, whereas I didn't seem to have a purpose before. I was just floating about trying to do a job and not getting very far. And people noticed that before I noticed it myself.
And did you believe them? So when someone said, oh, you know, you've really changed, did you believe, or did you push back and kind of, no, I haven't? Were you reflecting on it?
Yeah, I said, oh, I don't see it myself. And I used to tell people that I saw it physically, but mentally, I didn't see those changes myself. I was pretty oblivious to it, really. I just floated along and carried on doing what I was doing because I know how much better I felt physically. But that always impacts your mental state. And you know, people noticed it before I did.
So it sounds like you pretty quickly got out of that funk that you were in. And I mean, it sounds very, very close, if not depression, was probably a big part of that whole process, that where you were going through that kind of massive change, disruption in your life. It's losing your house, your husband, your son, those relationships all changing. And, you know, anybody's going to be affected by that, especially if you're sort of medicating through alcohol as well.
Yeah.
So you pretty quickly got yourself onto a really positive trajectory. And I think a lot of people would have probably, you know, got to that point and said, well, you know, I'm doing okay now. And, you know, maybe the weight loss would have continued and, you know, continue doing a bit of running. But that wasn't enough for you, right?
No.
You didn't stop at just running for an hour. So what happened next? You know, we got to the fell running. So you're into some more trickier terrain for your running. What was next?
Yeah. When you're out on the fells, and I bought a dog, our Frankie, and he goes miles with me. He must do 30 miles a week with me every week, the dog. And I bought him, and we used to go out on the fells. And there's no place more beautiful to run and remote and places to gather your thoughts. And after that, I thought, actually, you know, I'm not bad at running for quite a long period of time because you always run for longer off-road because you can't match your times and the scenery is beautiful. And I thought I really would like to do something. And I started looking at a half marathon. I did the Clumber Park Trailblazer, which went through the middle of Clumber Park. It's beautiful. And I thought I'm actually quite good at going over distance. Short races are no good for me. I haven't got a sprint in me, but long distance. And I started looking at those. And then Steve used to say to me, you're looking at another race, aren't you? And I go, yeah. So we'd done the 10K. We'd done the Leeds 10K. I did that. And then I went to the half marathons and started running over distance. And I'd have to can hold my pace and I'll go forever and a day. And I think when you realise, when you actually believe that you are actually not too bad at something, you actually put that bit more effort into it. And running over distance has certainly become my forte now.
So this is really interesting because I know you said Sorry, I'm just going to change this. The thing's frozen. It's back again now. I know you said there that you suddenly realised, I'm actually quite good at this, and my thing here, my thing is running longer distances. I'm good at that. Not so good at the fast stuff. How long did it take you to build that belief, and what was the evidence that you saw? Was it just the fact that you could do it, or were you comparing yourself to how other people were doing, and maybe comparing to what other people said about how hard it is to go for longer distances, yet you were finding it quite easy? What was the evidence that told you, actually, you know what, I am quite good at doing this?
I think it was physically, I could cope, my body could cope with that, and I had a good recovery time. Okay. So I could run a long distance one day and still go out. I could go out and do 15, 16 miles one day and go out the next day and do exactly the same and never feel it. And then I have my running partner, Caroline. She actually ran for Great Britain. She's a fantastic runner. And she gave me a lot of advice. She's an amazing woman. She's 68 now. And she said to me, Linda, you are better over distance. You can hold your pace. You know how to pace yourself. Fueling, that was a problem for me, and it still is, but I'm getting there. And I think it was her inspiration, really, that said, because she was in the ultra running British distance team. Right. And she said to me, this is where your forte is.
You had someone with that kind of expertise, that credibility, who was able to look at what you were doing objectively and say, actually, you know what, you are pretty good at this. If you look at how most people struggle. Because I think that's one of the things when we think about like owning how good we are at something, or what we should specialize in, for want of a better word. It's difficult to know, actually, are we any good at this? Who do we compare ourselves to? So really interesting to hear that you had this external independent source. Yes, she was a friend. Yes, she was encouraging you, but also to kind of take you under a wing almost and say, look, this is, you are good at this. Put your effort and your attention into developing this, because you've got something here. As you said, that then encouraged you to want to do more of it. So you've got to that point where you're doing half marathons and trail runs. What was the next chapter then in this evolution?
Well, then I started thinking about marathons.
Mm-hmm. As you do.
I thought, as you do, yeah. And the first marathon I ran was York Marathon In fact, to be honest, George, the last 6 years that I've only run the 4 marathons and the 2 ultra marathons in the last 2 years. So
really, so this whole process, then you got to that point where you were ticking along, doing just the enjoyment of running, the freedom and the headspace and the physical transformation, mental transformation, all that was happening. But then in the last 2 years, that's when you stepped it up to, right, let's look at going a little further. So you did the York Marathon.
Yes.
And how did you get on? What was your experience of that? Because that's a road marathon, isn't it?
Oh, God, it's horrendous. Well, no, it's everyone to their own. I've always run a lot off the road, but between miles 15 and 18, it doubles back on itself. And you can see everybody, coming back, running faster than you are. And it's a bit of a nightmare. It was for me. But I ran that in 5:01, I think it was.
Okay.
But as a marathon experience, it was, I don't think you ever know till you get out there. The fueling was difficult for me. It was trying to put it all together. I'd run half marathons and I'd run a lot of those. I'd run 14 by that time. And getting to that point to run that marathon, it was really difficult for me, that. But I made it round, and I made it in one piece. And that's all. Mm-hmm. All I ever go out to do now is I never run for times anymore. I don't run for PBs. I run to finish. I run to complete it. I don't run to a time. So it was a good experience for me, apart from it siled down with rain for the whole 26.2 miles. And I was that cold when I got back. Yeah. I had to ask some random woman in the tent to fasten my coat up, because I was shaking that much. I couldn't fasten my own coat. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Oh, it was horrendous. So that was the start for me, really. I thought, I can do that. Now I want to look at doing it properly. I did it, and I got myself round, and the fueling weren't great, and I realised then that trying to fuel on jelly babies for a whole marathon is not the way to go. So
there are better ways.
Yeah,
Nice
definitely. I
though jelly
found those.
babies are, but
Yeah, no. Well, the problem with those, it pushed my blood sugar up that high and then
Mm,
crashed it in my boots, and I was
mm,
struggling to function.
yeah.
So yeah, I went to other things, but that's another story. So
Okay, so you
yeah,
did the marathons, and you
yeah,
did obviously you got a bit of a the bug then, and
yes,
a lot of people finish a marathon, especially a wet, cold one, saying, "Oh, I'm never going to do that again," and then the next day they're
yeah,
signing up for the next one,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
and then you thought, well, marathon's not long enough,
yeah,
and you stepped it up to ultra
yes,
marathons. And for anybody who's not kind
yeah,
of au fait with the lingo here, an ultra marathon is anything longer than a marathon, 26.2 miles.
yeah,
Typically, 50K would be kind of a short ultra marathon.
yeah,
It's just 8 kilometers longer than a standard race.
yeah.
So what was it about the ultras that appealed to you, and what was the next step for you in that regard?
I think the main thing about ultra marathons, because I am a plodder, it meant that I could take it at my own pace. I'm not competing with anybody. I'm out there, and I always resign myself to the fact, because I'm not one of the fastest runners, I will be out there on my own with my thoughts
Mm-hmm.
at my pace, not trying to keep with everybody else like you are on a 10K race. And that's what appealed to me, because I could run it at my own pace, at my own leisure. And when I finish it, I finish it. I'm not dependent on time. I'm not running for a time. I'm running to complete it, not
Mm-hmm.
any other reason. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what appeals to me. I can
Yeah.
just plod along.
And is that what the future holds for you now then, to do more ultras, more fail runs, just kind of keep enjoying
Yeah.
it whilst
Yeah.
you're able
I
to?
mean, I've done this year, I did an ultra marathon in March. That was a 50K.
Mm-hmm.
I did London Marathon in April. I got a place in the ballot, so I was very lucky.
Wow.
I did the Jungfrau Marathon in Switzerland in September.
Mm-hmm.
And then in October, 3 weeks after, I did the 50-mile ultra marathon, the Round Rotherham.
So 50 mile is the furthest you've gone. I mean, that's pretty much
Yes.
2 marathons back to back, right?
Yeah.
It's not it's no small feat to do
No.
that. And was that off road? Was that a trail?
That was off road, all off
Wow.
road. Yeah,
Okay.
it was tough.
Was it loops, or was it one A to B?
No, one A to
One
B
big loop.
all the way. It runs a big loop round the outskirts of Rotherham and then out to through Sheffield and all the way round back. But it's all on trails, all through forest, and it's beautiful. It is. It's really good.
So, if you were to sort of summarize everything there and kind of look at where you are now in terms of your physical and your mental and emotional sort of approach to things, how different are you? Can you still recognize the kind of the traces, the characteristics of how you used to be? Is this kind of an evolved version, or is it do you feel like you're a completely different person now to who you were 6 years ago?
I am a completely different person to what I was 6 years ago.
Okay.
I was emotionally, mentally, physically 6 years ago in a total mess, and Steve would tell you that as well. Now, mentally and physically, I'm a strong person. I really have changed. My outlook on life has changed. I don't do stress anymore, and I won't let people stress me. It's and the two jobs that I do, I'm a funeral director and I work in police custody, and you don't get any more stressful than those jobs. But I don't do stress anymore. People will not stress me. People don't wind me up. People comment now on how laid back I am, to be fair. And then 6 years ago, I wasn't. I am totally different to that. Wow. And I think the exercise, I said earlier, what you feed your body and your mind, you can change. You can only change the changeable. And that has made me more resilient to the changes now, to the physical, emotional, spiritual changes that we all get as we get older. I think it's made a world of difference to me. Yeah.
Well, look, Linda, absolutely fascinating talking to you, and inspirational as well. And just to kind of finish on this note, I think that you said to me before that you're still flabbergasted that people kind of see your story as being inspirational, because you've just been going about your business, doing your thing, making your own choices and your own changes. And I think that inspiration isn't something that we own. It's something that others draw off and out of us, and we all have the ability to do that, or at least we have the potential to inspire others. And we don't do it through the things that we say. We inspire people, and we are inspired by what people do, and certainly what you have done and the way you've done it as well. And everything you just said there about stress and you were in a really dark place 6 years ago, yet you still started just chipping away at this and starting to believe that you were capable of change. And you didn't have this big idea that you were going to become an ultra runner way back 6 years ago when you bought that treadmill. Yet here you are with such a more enriched life, physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So inspiration is certainly a word that I would very, very happily see in a sentence along with your name. It's been great.
Oh, thank you. Thanks you very much.
Thanks again for sharing your story with us today. Appreciated. Cheers, Linda.
Thanks, George. Bye.